Hi everybody, Melanie here and welcome back to my channel. Today I'd like to talk about reasons why you haven't left a toxic relationship. And if you can relate to any of these, know that I offer online counselling and coaching services to help you navigate this difficult situation. So drop me an email if you'd like to get in contact, if you'd like to hear more about my services. My email address is in the video description, and you can also find details on my website, melanieamandine.com. Before I start, I'd like to point out that I'm talking about a toxic relationship, not necessarily the toxic person. Two people may just bring out the worst in each other, but are much better people when they're apart. However, if you're watching the videos on my channel, chances are that you're dating someone who is very traumatized, personality disordered, and by acting out their wounds, by living as if the past is still happening, they are causing a lot of harm. And whether this is intentional or not, you're feeling worse and worse and worse for being in this relationship. A toxic relationship is one in which the people involved aren't relating to each other in a healthy way. They're not communicating with each other in a healthy way. At least one of the persons involved is trying to minimize the other person's perspective, trying to invalidate their experience, and there generally is a lack of trust, at least with one person anyway, extreme feelings of jealousy and a constant need for reassurance and validation, to the point where it comes at the expense of your time and energy and mental health. And it becomes a codependent relationship in which two people become like that. Don't move, otherwise I'll fall over. You know that this relationship has become toxic when the negative emotions much outweigh the positive ones, and this becomes a massive drain on your energy, when your mental health is taking a serious hit, when your physical health is failing, when you have less and less and less energy. This is a sign that you're in a toxic relationship. Now, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of what a toxic relationship is. That's just a general outline of whether this relationship you're in could be toxic. Instead, I want to focus on the reasons why you're not leaving this toxic relationship. To the outside world, people might think, why are you with this person? Just leave, just leave. Pack your bags and go. Simple as that. But it's not as simple as that, which is why I'm making this video. It can be very lonely when friends and family and random people tell you, why are you complaining? Just go. What's the problem here? I hope that what I'm about to tell you is helpful. And like I said earlier, if you can relate, if you need some help, don't be shy, do reach out to me. Okay, so the first reason why you might not be leaving this relationship is because you don't know that it is toxic. Perhaps you're so used to this relationship that this is familiar, this is normal to you. Maybe you're in denial about how bad this relationship has become. What started out as a really good, wonderful, the best relationship maybe, has eventually degraded into this, and you don't want to admit it. So understandably, you're in denial about it. I like to use the analogy of the frog in hot water. If you have a pan of really hot water and you put a frog in it, it's going to jump out. It's way too hot. However, if you have a pan of room temperature water and you put the frog in it and the frog stays in it, and then you incrementally increase the temperature, gradually the temperature of the water gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And eventually it reaches boiling point and the frog stays in the pan and it dies. Because the frog can't survive in boiling water, but it didn't jump out of the water because it had gotten used to it. Can you relate? Are you this frog that is in boiling water, has gotten so used to it that it doesn't know that this is not good for it? Another reason why you might be finding it hard to leave is because you're addicted. These relationships are so addictive. When I mean these relationships, I mean the intense relationships where you experience such intense highs, where everything is amazing. It's the best relationship you've ever had. and you're constantly with this person. Either you're with them or you're talking to them on the phone for hours on end. You're always thinking about them. And when the relationship starts to degrade, when it does become toxic, the pattern is still there. You're still thinking about them. You're still thinking of ways of how to do better, how to go back to the honeymoon phase, how to win the approval of your disgruntled partner. It's helpful to consider that any sort of addiction or habit, it creates a circuit in your mind, and energy follows thought. Where your thoughts go, energy builds up. Same with emotions. Your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors create what we call in psychosynthesis counseling a maintaining cycle. The more you keep repeating this cycle, the more hard-grooved this circuit becomes in your mind. And thus on impulse, you will think about this person, think about this relationship. With any habit, the more that you keep practicing it, the more that you keep feeling and thinking about this habit, the more you will think about it. It just keeps building up. The more you keep playing out the circuit, the more your unconscious will keep popping in into your conscious awareness, impulses, urges, desires to repeat the habit, to keep reenacting, replaying the circuit. It's an addiction. Being addicted to a cluster B relationship, for example, why this is really hard to break out of, is because substances don't pick up the phone and try to manipulate you into contacting them when they feel that you're pulling away. This is a typical problem that I hear a lot from my clients. When you've decided that you want to leave, and your partner, who is ever so hyper-vigilant, picks up on this and then contacts you and is sweet as pie, is the nice person that you fell for, is being kind, being the way that you want them to be, basically. And cigarettes don't do this. If you're trying to quit cigarettes, they don't call you, they don't try to entice you back into a relationship, they don't try to manipulate you, they don't try to guilt trip you, they don't use sex as a weapon. This is why it's so hard to break this addiction, and yet it's completely possible. I think it helps to see this relationship as an addiction, if you can relate, and treat this like you would do with most addictions. So this brings me on to my next point about why it's so hard to leave. Because of the sexual chemistry. When the sex is really good, when you are so attracted to your partner, despite all the craziness and the stress of it all, maybe even the abuse as well, the sex makes it all better again. I'm going to show you now a clip from a TV show called Phone Shop. It's based in my hometown, and not only is it really funny, but it's highlighting a point that I'm trying to make here. So here it is.
Bruv, she's insane. The girl's mental. She's driving me mad.
Come on now, fam. We've all been that place, yeah? Mad in the head equals bad in the bed, yeah? I linked this girl Becky, yeah? French Kaneki Becky. Linked her for like 3 months, yeah? And boy, she was like, another level. She was proper loops.
What'd she do?
Shat in the window display. Got sectioned, innit?
What?
Yeah, bruv. The Christmas shitter parked a little one in the crib. They had to do an overnight redress. Yeah, all I'm saying is, the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. You can put up with all manner of madnesses if you're getting your tings, innit?
Bruv, I ain't even getting that.
What? You ain't getting your tings?
Okay. Sunday night, we're in her bedroom. I'm about to introduce her to Dwayne Jr. Esquire. She's like, I really want to, but you have to ask permission first.
Okay, so you gotta ask permission first. That's cool. That's like a legal thing, isn't it? You gotta do that nowadays. It's like a sexual prenup.
No. Not her permission.
Okay. Who you gotta ask to bust juice?
Mr. Wise. I have to ask Mr. Wise.
Who the fuck's Mr. Wise? Tell me it ain't her dad with a camcorder in the wardrobe.
Bruv, Mr. Wise is a nasty, evil fucking owl tattooed large on the girl's back.
owl.
An owl.
Owl.
An owl on her back, staring at me, judging me.
Owl.
An owl.
The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Now, apologies if you found this distasteful. It reminds me of how people talk back where I live, so it's a bit nostalgic for me. But these men make a point, okay? A lot of people will tolerate crazy, disordered, dysfunctional behaviour because they find that their sex life is better for it. The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. I have heard this a lot, okay? Now, it doesn't have to be as extreme as your partner defecating in shop windows. But nonetheless, they make a point that sometimes we tolerate really dysfunctional, weird, crazy behaviour because the sex is really good. And in general, I think compared to neurotypical people, where they can be quite predictable, when the relationship becomes very predictable, there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually quite desirable after you've dated someone very dysfunctional. People who are neurodivergent, or people who have BPD, or just whatever, people that are darker berries, using this analogy here, the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. These people are exciting, okay? And yeah, the sex can also be very exciting. Maybe if you're used to living your life on edge, maybe you're used to being adrenalized, maybe you're used to having chronically elevated levels of cortisol. Perhaps that's just your background, how you grew up, whatever, maybe that's just you. So someone who is a bit on the crazy side may be more thrilling, and the sex may just be more appealing to you than having sex with someone who is more stable, more predictable. Another reason why you haven't left this relationship is likely because you're trauma bonded to this person through a process of intermittent reinforcement, where your partner gives you crumbs of hope, where they are intermittently nice to you and how they used to be at the beginning of the relationship, when that's interspersed with them treating you terribly, when you're experiencing their wrath, their anger, their disinterest, their devaluation. It's traumatizing. It's traumatizing when initially you were elevated, you were seen as wonderful, and then you become devalued. That in itself is shocking. And to then have intermittent reinforcement where every now and then your partner will be kind, will be the way that they used to be. And that gives you breadcrumbs of hope that it could go back to how it was. And the altering between being nice to you, being not nice to you, of treating you cruelly and then being kind to you, that bonds you even more to the person that you're with. And it's hard for anyone to understand unless they've been in this situation. They don't know unless they've experienced a trauma bond themselves. Trauma bonding is a real thing. It's a form of emotional Stockholm syndrome, when we are experiencing cruelty from another person with intermittent moments of kindness. It does tend to keep us bonded to this person. And the pain of leaving this person is more than likely because of this trauma bond. Like I said earlier, codependency looks like this, with two people leaning upon each other. So when one person leaves, so you want to leave, you feel like you're going to fall over, and you're worrying about your partner falling over as well. Maybe you used to be more of an independent person, but now you can't even imagine being independent again. Give yourself time. It takes a while for the trauma bond to dissolve, and what helps speed up the process is consistency. Going back and forth, which happens a lot, understandably. You pull away, your partner picks up on you pulling away, tries to entice you back in. And then the same thing keeps happening over and over and over again. You break the trauma bond, by being consistent in saying no, saying goodbye. And believe me, it will get easier the more you can say goodbye. And it's not just saying goodbye like by leaving them, but it's saying goodbye with your thoughts, saying goodbye here. And this is why I offer coaching in particular to help with this, because coaching strategies can help with managing your thoughts. And it helps though to be resolute with your decision. It is easier to break this addiction when you are firm and solid with your no. And you will be tested, because a lot of my clients share with me they think they're sure they want to leave, and then their partner freaks out that they're going to leave and will convince them to stay. You're not going to be pulled back in, you're not going to be hoovered back into a relationship if you are firm with no. No means no. You have to be firm with your no. And if you need help with this, talk with me about this, or reach out to someone if you feel like you're going to cave in. Be careful with thinking about the good times and wishful thinking, where you want to tell yourself, maybe it can go back to how it used to be. Maybe it'll be different this time. Well, what's changed? That means it will be different. So if your partner is like this, if your partner is forever abdicating accountability and responsibility for their actions and instead continues to blame you, you know, if they lost their job, it's your fault. If they're having a bad day, it's your fault. This is what codependency looks like when you date someone with BPD. You become responsible for regulating their mood. Which brings me on to the next point. Another reason why we stay in these relationships is because we feel like pleasing your disgruntled partner will make the relationship better again. And this goes hand in hand with trauma bonding and intermittent reinforcement. When you're blamed for their bad mood, when you're blamed for their toxic behaviors, and with that comes the expectation of, well, if you make changes, if you do something different, if you do something to please your partner, then they will be happy again and all will return to normal. But this doesn't last for long, does it? How many of you can relate to this? And have you noticed that when you do this, the goalposts of expectation keep widening and widening, meaning that the more you stop what you're doing and put all your time and energy and effort into pleasing your partner that's not happy with you, they expect you to keep doing this. And when you aren't maintaining this high level of attention to them and making everything better for them, they will complain, they will be unhappy, and they'll blame you for it. So can you see how this becomes like a carrot chasing after a carrot? This becomes like a donkey chasing after a carrot on a stick, where you're the donkey and the promise of a happier partner and a happier relationship is the carrot, and you're just chasing it, but you're not quite getting it. You're getting a nibble of it, but then it's pulled away again, and you're just going around trying to get the carrot and you just don't really get it. Yeah, that's what it's like when you're trying to please a partner who struggles with finding satisfaction in life. I think a lot of people with BPD struggle with finding satisfaction. Maybe it's because they're also depressed. It's quite common for people with BPD to also have depression. I do think though that this is a struggle with accepting and being grateful for how things are, and instead thinking the grass is green on the other side. If they're not happy about something, they'll daydream that a different situation will make them happier. And this relates to having an external locus of control. You give your power away when you do this, when you believe that it's outside forces that make you happy and it's outside forces that make you sad. So, the cure to this is cultivating an attitude of gratitude and pushing yourself to be grateful for how things are every day, okay? It really does help. But if your partner's not doing this, then yeah, it's likely that you will continue to be blamed for their bad moods. And then when you snap, because you're so tired and drained and fed up of not living your life and instead living your life to please this person, of course you're going to snap. You're human, you have your limits. They're like elastic bands. You keep being stretched, you will snap. And guess what? You'll be blamed for that as well. It'll be hung over your head as, oh, do you know the time when you did this, when you did that? You're confirming to your borderline partner that you are as bad as they are accusing you of being. And the guilt, the shame of being this way, of being seen this way, means that you're more likely to stay in the relationship to try and convince your partner that you're not this way, that you're being misunderstood. But will you ever truly be seen by them? When you have moments, because you will have moments with your partner when they have lucidity, when they see you for as you are, but these are just moments. It's not consistent, it's not permanent. Another reason why you might be struggling to leave is because of the fog. Fog being an acronym for fear, obligation, and guilt. You don't want to leave because of the fear of what will happen if you do. Fear that your partner might hurt themselves if you leave. Fear that you're not going to cope because of the loneliness, that you might not meet someone else, so it just seems easier to stay in a familiar relationship. Feeling obligated to stay because you feel responsible for your partner's mental well-being, because you've been responsible for regulating their feelings. That's codependency for you, as I explained earlier. Now, if your relationship has become unhealthily codependent, what do you think the cure is? Could it possibly be learning to become emotionally independent? And that's for both people, not just for you, but for your partner. So consider this. If you think like you're a bad person for leaving, and it's likely your partner's calling you bad for even thinking about leaving, is it good to stay in a relationship where no one's improving and you're enabling the immature behaviours, the destructive behaviours, maybe even the abusive behaviours of your partner? Are you being a good person when you're enabling these behaviours? And rather than see them as an adult telling you off, see it's their wounded child within them that often has control over them, that is saying all these things because it's coming from a young place. You know, you're a bad person if you leave me. It's like the child that doesn't want the parent to leave because they don't know how to survive on their own. But this person's an adult, okay? They can survive on their own. You leaving gives them an opportunity for them to figure things out for themselves. Maybe they won't, maybe they'll find someone else. Or maybe they will. That's the thing, at least you provide an opportunity for them to fall on their own sword so that they can hit rock bottom. Sometimes we need to hit rock bottom for us to be motivated to change. If you stay every time they keep saying you're bad for leaving, you're preventing them from hitting rock bottom, and thus you're stopping them from being motivated to change. It's just something to think about. It's not so black and white about whether you're bad for staying or going. When someone isn't helping themselves, it ends up becoming an impossible project. Consider a lamb that's been caught in barbed wire, and it's got all tangled up and it's in pain, and you see this lamb and you want to help it. So you try to help the lamb, and the more you try and help, the more the lamb keeps panicking, and in panicking they're hurting themselves even more. So I'm saying, when someone is far gone with a trauma response, when someone desperately needs counselling, medical advice, to see the doctor, whatever healing they need, your love isn't going to be enough. Okay, this is something that is a hard pill to swallow, so I'll repeat it. Sometimes your love won't be enough. It won't be enough. Your efforts and your love won't be enough to help them. Okay, maybe in the moment it can be helpful when you're being considerate, kind, and listening to them, but then the same issues keep happening again and again and again. They're not willing to help themselves. They become reliant, dependent upon you to do the work for them. You're not helping them mature as a person, are you? You're just enabling this behavior to continue. So anytime you think you're being bad for leaving your disordered partner, consider this. How are they going to learn from their mistakes if you take away the consequences of their actions from them? By staying in a relationship when you are being disrespected, when you are being abused, when you are being treated cruelly, and you still stick around, you're telling your partner that this is okay, I will still stay. And maybe, so with BPD, they have a strong fear of abandonment. And maybe they said at the beginning, don't ever leave me. Don't ever leave me. And when you are so fed up in the relationship, maybe you're really having doubts that, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. They sense you pulling away and they say, don't leave me. You promised you wouldn't leave me. And that tugs on your heartstrings and you feel bad. You think, oh, I made a promise not to leave. You are within your right to leave because you're not their parent. Where's the motivation for your partner to become a better person if they keep disrespecting you and you allow it? Where's the motivation to do things differently? Because in their mind, they've gotten away with it. And your allowing, forgiving, tolerant behavior ends up enabling the immaturity. So if you're feeling trapped in this relationship, with everything I've said, it's completely understandable. Know that you have the keys for freedom within yourself. And that is to consider that you don't need the approval of your partner to feel better about yourself. You're not a bad person for leaving if the relationship is so toxic that you're just becoming a shell of a person. It's affecting your work, your social life, your health. When everything is getting badly affected, you are well within your right to leave and you're not bad for doing so. Just because your partner is accusing you of being a terrible person for leaving, it doesn't make it so. As I said, you don't need the approval or validation from someone else to feel better about yourself. Chase after people's approval and you will forever be their prisoner. It's a quote from the Tao Te Ching there. And it's true. This is why learning to become emotionally independent is the cure here. To learn to value yourself independent of other people's judgments. Another reason why you might be struggling to leave is because this is so familiar to you, because you've grown up with this. Maybe you are attracted to the push-pull dynamics because you've witnessed this growing up, whether it's from family members, people at school. It's normally early childhood experiences or witnessing people who are disordered, from witnessing toxic relationships and thinking that this is normal. Of course, you're going to find this is normal in the future because this was normal to you growing up. So it's unlikely that you'll see this as toxic because you're used to it. This is the norm. And if you've had a parent who is disordered themselves, chances are that you weren't seen properly. You weren't properly appreciated as a child. And as an adult, perhaps there's a part of you that's longing to be seen and appreciated. And here comes this person who love bombs you, who worships you, who thinks you're amazing. And that feels so good. And it's wanting to get back to that place. That means that you're willing to stick through all the... You're willing to stick around despite all the pain, the suffering, because of how good it felt when you were adored. We accept the love that we think we deserve. If you're in a place where you think that this relationship is the best I'm ever going to do, if you think that you are a terrible person and you believe your partner when they're blaming you for everything, maybe it's because you grew up like this. Maybe you had a parent who blamed you for everything and you find yourself dating someone who is just like your parent, for example. And if you can relate, do reach out to me. Maybe I could help. Maybe talking about this with someone who gets it can be helpful for you. So I'm going to leave it there. And like I said, if you've got any questions, comments, do reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Any video requests as well, do reach out and let me know. And I'll leave it there for today. So enjoy your day. Take care and bye-bye for now.